Here I am thinking about what I'm gonna say for this movie review. Look at me. I look down, I am scratching my chin, and the next thought that comes out of my mouth is gonna be about—
Wait, whoa! What are you doing? Who are you?
I'm inner monologue narrating your thoughts.
I don't need an inner monologue or narration. I'm about to talk about the movie I'm gonna review right now.
I can help give more emotional insight for what you're about to say, and—
No, stop!
If you just give me a few more—
Stop!
If you just give me—
Stop!
This can really help you out in the long—
What is up, everybody? Random Man here, bringing you my first video of 2019. Happy New Year to you all. I hope you had a safe and fun transition into the new year. This is my first movie review for 2019 as well, but it is for a 2018 release, and it is for If Beale Street Could Talk. Based on the novel of the same name, written by James Baldwin, and set in the early 1970s within Harlem, the plot of this romantic drama basically follows a young African-American woman, played by Kiki Lane, who, with her family's support, seeks to clear the name of her wrongly charged significant other, played by Stephan James, and prove his innocence before the birth of their child. Going into this movie, I was looking forward to see it quite a bit. If you saw my previous video, which was the last video I did for 2018, running down my top 18 favorite movies of 2018, then you would know that I name dropped If Beale Street Could Talk as a movie, or one of the movies I wish I could have seen during 2018 and possibly would have gotten onto my favorites of the year list. I was busy with family, it was still during the holidays, around the time of New Year's. We are now past New Year's, but either way, I said I would see and review this movie in 2019, and here we are. This was a movie I was looking forward to for a multitude of reasons, mainly for the writer/director at the helm and the concept. This movie is written and directed by Barry Jenkins, who is well known for previously directing Moonlight, the film that would go on to win 3 Academy Awards a couple years ago, including the Best Picture Oscar after a little movie called La La Land was wrongly announced as the winner. Now, even though La La Land was my favorite movie of 2016, still is actually, I could not shut up about this movie for a while, Moonlight I did feel was deserving of Best Picture. And over time, especially after I rewatched this movie after that whole Oscar ceremony debacle, I have a greater appreciation for Moonlight. It was definitely the most important of all the Best Picture nominees that year in terms of its themes and messages. And really, when I first saw and reviewed this movie, it almost sounded as if I was not as enthusiastic as other people raving about this film. Even though I gave this thing a very high recommendation, over time, as I've said, this movie really did hit me harder and harder, and how it just really stuck out to me as something that is so relatable and all the more genuine. This is a fantastic movie, and I do think it is one of the best of the decade thus far. So seeing what Barry Jenkins would do next already had my interest, but it got me more hooked to see If Beale Street Could Talk, knowing that it was the first adaptation of a work written by James Baldwin for the screen or anything, I believe. Now, I have never read the book that this movie is based on, but I am familiar with the late great Baldwin's work. I love this guy. Such a profound writer for his time and even for today. 2 years ago, or 2 spring semesters ago specifically, I listened to the entirety of his work, The Fire Next Time, the audiobook version of it, and I just sat there in awe of what was, said by Baldwin. Then the following semester, in another class, I read Giovanni's Room, written by Baldwin, which is one of his most famous works as well, and that one got me really enthralled by what he said there, and just the story too. Like, that was a pretty heartbreaking story if you know from reading that book. For that same class, I also watched the documentary I Am Not Your Negro, based on James Baldwin's unfinished manuscript, Remember This House. Highly recommended viewing. So not having been familiar with If Beale Street Could Talk had me interested to go in blind and not know about the story going in, as I wanted to be enveloped with what was being shown. And with all the rave reviews and all other awards contention this movie was getting, I was pretty pumped to see it. Starting out with the cast and their performances, we have Kiki Layne in the lead role of Clementine, aka Tish. Now, she is easily the heart and soul of this movie, portraying this young black woman who has a really difficult situation and her significant other, played by Stephan James, being stuck in prison while also being pregnant with their child. Her performance here, I thought, was so pure and just full of both innocence and resilience that she is probably one of the standout performances I've seen in a 2018 film. I also believe this is the first major film she's been a part of, and wow, she is a star in the making right here. Also astonishing here is Stephan James as Alonzo, aka Fawny. Now, for a lot of the movie, he is behind bars, but we do see flashbacks throughout the film showing him the relationship he has with Tish and all of the events that happened before he got her pregnant and got arrested for a wrongfully accused crime. I thought he was superb as well, and the chemistry he has between himself and Layne is electric. I so believe the romance that these two had throughout the film, and instantaneously, I would say they became one of my favorite movie couples I've seen in recent memory. Giving support to our terrific leads here are players such as Regina King. She is getting singled out consistently for praise among all of the main actors in this movie, and I personally love Regina King. I have loved her ever since I first saw her in, get ready for this, Daddy Daycare. Oh man, what a movie this was when I was a kid. But yeah, with King, yeah, I do agree that she is great in this movie. She's not in the movie a lot, given how a lot of people are pushing her for Best Supporting Actress consideration. And as great as I thought she was in this movie, I think that everyone here, no matter the role, I think contributes to a fair amount in this movie. As we also have people such as Teyonah Parris as Tish's sister, Coleman Domingo as Tish's father, Brian Tyree Henry, I have to mention him, as I previously saw him in Widows, one of my favorite movies of last year. He was pretty intimidating in that movie, and this one notable sequence where he reunites with James's Fawny, he is very sympathetic in telling this story of what he had gone through previously. That shows how this guy has quite a bit of range, going from scary to really sympathetic in just 2 movies. Like, wow, 2 movies of recent memory. Everyone here, like I said, no matter the role, gives such a tremendous contribution to the movie acting-wise, but in particular, the standouts here are Kiki Layne and Stephan James. The writing of this film, and by extension the directing by Barry Jenkins, immediately sets up this movie to be of a particular tone and also a vivid visual style, which I'll get to in a moment. But with what the story presents itself to be in our 2 main characters, Tish and Fawny, and what they go through, it begins with them already a couple, and throughout the movie in how it is structured, it flashes back and forth between the present time where Fawny is imprisoned and Kiki is pregnant with their child, and then also to the relationship they had before. And with that, in the first half of the movie specifically, it jumping back and forth to Tish and Fawny's relationship, it gave a lot of insight to how they are as characters. They are longtime childhood friends, and they slowly but surely gained a really intimate relationship with each other. And like I said, with the performances from Layne and James, it was so believable. But when stuff gets serious, much like Jenkins' previous work with Moonlight, it is handled with a fair amount of realism, but also a fair amount of delicacy put together. As when we are shown what it is like to be black in America in this specific period of time and the specific area of the US within Harlem, it is both eye-opening, but also just creates a bunch of drama within the underlying narrative, to where it got me to care more and more about our main couple, but also just seeing how grim it all really is in tone. This is aided by the visual language that the movie presents within the cinematography. Now, a lot of people who previously worked on Moonlight behind the camera with Jenkins do return, such as James Slaxton doing the cinematography for the film, and this is such a visually vibrant movie. It's bursting with a lot of color in some sequences, but also just the way the camera was moving in some moments of the movie. It really got across to me what the movie was trying to say without using any words. As it is said, the word in a movie, the spoken word specifically, should be the last weapon used within a film, and I totally believe that to be the case in If Beale Street Could Talk, as this is such a gorgeous looking movie, but also with the auditory department. Like in Moonlight, Nicholas Britell, who did the music for that movie, returns to do the music for If Beale Street Could Talk. And oh man, upon hearing the first track of the film, Eden, which is reprised throughout the film, it really made me feel like I was listening to the sound of Harlem, given the trumpets blaring in the background in some moments of that track, but also feeling the utter romance that Tish and Fonnie have between each other. It's sort of similar to how Chiron's theme from Moonlight is reprised throughout the film to different varying pitches and other, modes of being played, which I thought was effective for Moonlight, and it's certainly effective here again for If Beale Street Could Talk. The way the movie was stringed together in its editing definitely helped out with the pace as well. Whether it is transitioning from scene to scene, I never thought one scene was too abrupt or too dragging in terms of how long it would linger on screen. And speaking of the pace, this movie runs for about 2 hours, and I gotta say, I was surprised at how engaged I was with the movie. Not that I thought it was boring at any point, but by the time it ended, I was like, really? It's over already? That was a really fast-moving 2-hour film, and it got me that much more into the narrative in me not noticing how long and far this movie ran. What I have to commend Barry Jenkins immensely for, in not just having a unique voice in Hollywood, is that he made 2 movies, Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk, about being black in America without necessarily reverting to black film tropes. And I think it's ridiculous that people tend to label movies about certain subject matters or be about people of certain races as black films, Latino films, or anything like that, as they are just movies straight up. And what Jenkins did here with such elegance in crafting both Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk is just tell stories that are basically human. We are all human after all, and there are just some things in life that are beyond our control, whether it is us being defined by our race, our socioeconomic class, or anything like that. And this rings really true in how the movie ends. Without giving anything away, I was personally hit pretty hard by the way the movie ended in how it was simple in its execution. As the credits rolled and I was leaving the screening, there was a group of people who left the movie after me, and I heard one of them say, "I'm mad in the way the movie ended," which in one way showed how the movie did get to this individual. And by the way, this group of people, they were in a front row in front of me in seeing this movie, and they were pretty interactive with the movie early on. As one thing I haven't mentioned is that though this movie is a drama, there are moments of levity with some comedic moments, but also when the drama does hit pretty hard, that's what got those group of people to be really into the movie. They even clapped a couple times when shit hit the fan for real. And I thought that was all well and good, but with that specific individual who was mad for how the movie ended, again, I think it's a testament to how this movie was effective in its construct, while also being a story that I think is really relatable to anybody. Now, in terms of where this movie would fit in my favorites of 2018, I would have to think about that a little more. If it wouldn't be on my actual ranked list, it would have certainly been an honorable mention. And with that as well, in comparison to Jenkins's previous work, Moonlight, I would have to think about which one I prefer even more as well, because both movies, though they do have to do with being black in America within certain time periods, they are different films in their execution that do have a lot of emotional etchings within them. As for Moonlight, after 2 viewings, it really cemented itself to me as being one of the best movies of the decade. But with If Beale Street Could Talk, that was more direct and hit much more immediately after I finished watching this movie and leaving the theater as well. So really, yeah, it's almost an apples to oranges comparison to me, but in the best way possible. As Barry Jenkins, he really is becoming one of my favorite filmmakers in Hollywood today. I do hope this movie gets more attention as award season does progress, as it got 3 Golden Globe nominations, and the ceremony is actually this Sunday. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat to see my coverage for that ceremony. And really, in terms of Oscar nominations, I could see quite a few nominations here and there as well. But we're going to have to wait and see, as even with or without awards recognition, If Beale Street Could Talk is a terrific film. This movie is opening up into more cities across the US this weekend, and this is one I encourage you to go seek out and watch. I love this movie. I highly recommend it. My final verdict for If Beale Street Could Talk is 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of If Beale Street Could Talk. Social media links in the description. Subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.